All right, next I'll be discussing how auctions work. I want to preface this with two caveats. One is that I'm using the term auctions as a shorthand for Gnosis Easy Auction, a particular type of batch auction mechanism. And two, that in general, there can be any number of trading methods integrated with the reserve protocol. Gnosis Easy Auction is just the first of these kinds, and we generally use the term auctions as shorthand to refer to the specific mechanism. But in the future, there might be multiple auction mechanisms, and there might be atomic trading methods as well. So let's dive in. Here we're looking at EUSD. At the time of this recording, we're around an 11 million market cap, and it's backed by these 4 tokens. Why might auctions be necessary? There are 2 causes of auctions. One, you can have revenue that appreciates. So these are yield-bearing USDT and USDC derivatives. When they appreciate and are worth more USDC or USDT, then a balance of them can be taken and sold off in auction for RSR to give to stakers. Or in the case that you have a yielding or appreciating R token, then sold for R token in order to melt that R token. Case 2 occurs when governance changes the basket directly, or when there's a default of one of the collateral and an automatic swap out to emergency collateral. This happened with USDC during the DPEG of March 2023, as some of you may remember, and that's actually the auction we'll be looking at today. Okay, great, so let's dive in. So ideally, you'd be able to launch an auction directly from the register. This is unfortunately not available today on April 10th, 2023. Likely, when you are watching this video, it will be available, so I urge you to head to the Auctions tab and look here for some sort of button or visualization of the revenue if you are interested in seeing what that looks like. In the meantime, though, I want to show people how to go behind the scenes in order to launch the auction directly. So let's take the case of a rebalancing auction. Let's suppose that one of these 4 tokens defaulted. Let's just take the USDC DPEG case. Let's say both these 2 tokens have defaulted, and it's being swapped out for a combination of USDT and USDP. So say you wanted to start those auctions, what would you do? And you're living in a world where the register does not yet have that button. You would head to the backing manager over here, go to contract, write as proxy. As a general rule, whenever you see the proxy tabs, you should basically always use them instead of the read and write directly ones. That's not strictly true, but if you're not super in the weeds here, then you can basically just use that rule. So this is what you would do. You'd scroll down to the manage tokens function. You would click connect to Web3, and I don't have my wallet actually here, but you would hit OK, connect with your favorite mechanism. This will go green. You would put 2 square brackets here. This is the empty array, and you'd hit write. And that's basically it. Bit of forewarning, it is a really expensive transaction. And generally the reason for that is it has to compute basically what is the USD value of every excess and deficit balance that it has, right? So for every token balance, it has to figure out how much do I actually want to have of this balance, how much is surplus, how much is deficit, and how much is that worth in USD terms. And then it takes the trade that is the largest possible surplus and largest possible deficit as well. So in the case of the USDC DPEG and subsequent recollateralization, after all the collateral was sold off, the protocol was still under collateralized by a bit. I think the amount was about 2%. So here, this is the final auction to send collateralization back to 100%. The protocol decided to auction off 8 million RSR for as much USDT as it could get. This is the floor price, which is the price supplied by the protocol. And this auction mechanism guarantees that no tokens will be traded at a price worse than this floor price. So how is this floor price actually calculated? So the process is not too complicated, but it does take a while to explain. The price for RSR is looked up in a Chainlink Oracle. The price for USDT is looked up in a Chainlink Oracle. These two together give you an exchange rate. That exchange rate, just guessing, was around 405, maybe 41. And this number is going to be discounted due to a couple different sources. So one, it's going to be discounted due to something called, or at least what Chainlink calls, the Oracle deviation, right? You can think of this as an error or uncertainty on the price. So in Tether's case, since Tether is a stablecoin, you can see that the USDT-USD Oracle has a small error of 0.25%. Meanwhile, RSR, since it's much more volatile, has an error of 2%. This means that in net, I mean, these don't add directly. Technically, they multiply in a way where they exacerbate each other, but you can roughly add them together to get a total error of 2.25%. This is then added to one more source of discount, which is the max trade slippage. So here, the max trade slippage for EUSD is set to 1%, and that means that this final floor price was, in total, 3.25% off from whatever the even price would have been between RSR and USDT based on the Chainlink oracles naively. This provides a little bit of a buffer for in case there are price movements. Notice that here, if RSR were to change in price and fall a bunch, then it could actually fall below the 0.0039 point, causing everyone to cancel their bids in this auction and for the auction to reset. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So how does this auction mechanism work once you've launched it using either this behind the scenes mechanism or the button that will eventually be there on the register? I don't have an auction open at the moment, so I won't run through this, but over here on the left, you'll be able to approve the tokens you want to sell, which will of course be the tokens that are being bought by the protocol. And you'll be able to set some sort of price and also set the amount of USDT that you're trying to sell. So let's look at the orders that came in for this auction. So here we see 3 different orders. I'll just save you some time and state that these amounts that are being bid are the full amount. That is, at this particular price, this amount of USDT is so much that it is enough to buy the 7.997 million RSR. This is not strictly speaking always going to be the case. You know, you do not have to be a whale. You do not have to cover the entire auction in order to participate. You can bid for only a small portion, 100 or 1000 USDT. I will note, though, that due to gas costs, obviously, that's kind of a bad idea. So here we have 3 bids that came in. The first was pretty close to the floor price, just above it. The second was significantly above it. And the third was just above that second price. You'll notice that the clearing price actually ended up much closer to this middle bid. These are actually identical. There's just a decimal not being shown here. 4051 was the actual price. So why is that? That's because Gnosis Easy Auction uses a next price mechanism. This is similar to a second price or Victory auction, where essentially you have an incentive to reveal your true preference about how you price an asset because you don't get punished for pricing for revealing a number too high. So in this case, this bidder at the very top was actually willing to pay a little bit more than this next bidder. But since they covered the entire auction, they received a clearing price for their lot that was equal to the next price. Sorry, the next price in the bids ordered from best to worst, right? So, you know, imagine that this weren't for the full USDT amount. Imagine there's like 5 different rows up here where different people all bid at high prices. Even if one of their bids was at, you know, 0.1 USDT per RSR, they would still only pay this 0.00405 number. And that's because of this next price mechanism. I won't geek out about the theory too much, but I will just say this is a much more stable mechanism than something like a first price auction, which you will probably know if you participated in bidding for block space on Ethereum prior to EIP 1559. I think that's just about it. That's how to start an auction. How to settle an auction, finally. Final piece. After an auction is wrapped up over here in Gnosis, someone does need to settle the trade. Again, there will be a button in the register eventually for this, right over here. Or, you know, maybe it actually gets put here once the ongoing auction can be settled. Not sure. Oops. But in the meantime, you can come here, go to settle trade, and put the sell token. So in this case, that would be RSR. I take the address for RSR. Oops. Hello. And I would paste that here and hit right. All right, those are all the pieces that describes how the protocol does its auctions.
In the next episode, we're going to look at some advanced parameters for RTokens.